People talk about having experience. They play themselves up like they're fucking awesome, like they're amazing, like these great people. But when it comes to actually, true experience, you can't panic, man. You gotta like stay calm. You can't panic, and that's what I find even in there when you were showing me how to use Build Exact. It was a lot to take in. Like when I just like took a breath for a second, and actually looked at what was going on. I was able to comprehend the whole situation.
How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max Peterson. I'm the CEO at Smith & Sons Remodeling Experts here in Canada. Thanks for joining us. If you're in podcast world or if you're in YouTube land, great to have you along. You're in for a special treat today, because in the studio, we have our newest addition to the international general contracting family, that is Smith & Sons, Mr. Jacob Boschmann. Welcome, champion. Appreciate you doing this with us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Is it different to be in the studio instead of sitting behind your phone on an Instagram Q&A?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it's a lot. It's definitely different.
So, you've made it to the big times, mate. You are officially on the Business for Builders podcast, and there's a little bit of TikTok happening over there, just a bit more pressure. There's only probably a couple hundred folks over there. So, mate, what we really want to do is, we want to, obviously everything that we do at Business for Builders is trying to add value. I think there's so much opportunity within the building industry. A lot of the time we fail to sort of recognize that there is, and then we sort of think there's a massive competition going on to win work, when there's really evidently, especially here in Canada, where I can get, statistics and numbers and things, there's so much opportunity. And so, what we're trying to do is get you to just share your story, even though you're brand new, aren't you? How was 4 days of training, bro? Tell me quickly about that.
Cooks the mind, man. No, it's pretty interesting, right? It's a lot of groundbreaking stuff. So
yeah,
stuff I've never even thought of.
Because I've often said on the show that it's there's a lot of information, and we only do 4 days. People might go, well, only 4 days. That's not near enough. Imagine if we were coming back on Monday.
Fuck that, man.
Attaboy. It's specifically done that way because I'm a general contractor, I'm a carpenter by trade, and we don't do classrooms too well. So, but there is a massive. So it wasn't too complex, was it?
No, it was a lot of information, but it wasn't like, oh my god, this is like gibberish. It made a lot of sense. It was just a lot.
So how much of the information did you learn or did you see that you knew about that you aren't implementing?
Honestly, probably like 50% of it.
How much?
50% of it.
50%, right.
Believe it or not, whether I was like aware of it or not, just like hearing it and seeing it on the screen.
Yep.
It's actually pretty much like, when you think you have ideas and you want to implement them, like you think they're bad ideas, but then somebody else tells them and shows them to you, you're like, man, that's actually, that's true, right? It's really glad to reinforce your own ideas and seeing them being reinforced.
Because you did say to me at the beginning of the week, you're sort of really excited about training and obviously getting into it. Of course, you've done you've already had a few meetings, made a few phone calls. So, next week the rubber meets the road. You shouldn't be nervous because you were already operating a general contracting business, right?
No, but honestly though, with just going through the training, actually seeing how you do it, you get a lot more confidence, flat out.
Right.
Even after the first day, I took a meeting in the evening. I was a lot more confident going there. Right. It just felt better.
And why do you think that was? Is it because you're in training or because you're now wearing branded uniform? Like what do you think gave you the confidence? Like how did that? Because only last week when you were still before Smith & Sons, you were doing it.
Yeah.
Now you're saying this week it's different. How so?
When you're on your own, it's more trial and error. Like if you don't have a reference point, it's more trial and error, right? You don't know if it's going to work. You think it's going to work, but if somebody like I said, if you follow a model that works really well and you've never implemented before, and you're actually now like taking ideas off that, and you're like, wow, this is actually like a completely different ballgame.
So it's almost like you're already a sort of a V8, and then all we've done is just added a cute couple of turbos.
Pretty much, yeah. Got some steroids, that shit.
Steroids, yeah, baby. Righto. So tell us about your construction life before you bumped into Smith & Sons. As far as where did it start, and then sort of what you've been doing recently. Up until you're running your own general contracting business.
I started in the construction industry when I was in 2006. I was a little bit of a shithead.
We all were, mate. Don't worry about that. I still am, actually.
Yeah, pretty much. I was gonna say.
Whoa, I'm right here, dude.
Yeah, you still get it though. So in 2006, I had always issue with school, right? So I was like, my old man, he owned a construction company. He said, you have two choices: you either get a job or you go to school. And I tried to go to school. Didn't work for me. I couldn't pay attention. It was just not my thing, right? Obviously, I did night school to finish whatever I had to finish, right? But and then it kind of, I just kind of stuck with it, and I hated it at first because like, fuck, who's 16 loves working? Truth, right?
We like the money, but
yeah, we love the money, but who actually loves getting up at six in the morning and going to work, right? So that's how I kind of got into it. But it actually really grew on me, and then the older you get, you realize it's actually a really versatile industry to be in.
So did you, when you got into it, was that, like I know when I got into it, I went straight into carpentry. Yeah. Is that who were you working for then? Who was it that you did an apprenticeship, or who did you spend your time with in those early days?
My parents, my dad,
right,
and my brothers.
Okay, and so it was a family business.
Yeah.
And what was the line of work mostly?
Framing mostly.
Okay, all right.
And then concrete, we went into concrete flooring as well afterwards.
Yep.
But that was our main bread and butter. So.
Right. Okay, and so how was it? Like, you've just alluded to the fact that there's a degree of confidence that jumps up. What do you think is the most challenging thing that you face as an independent general contractor now that you're in the inner sanctum of Smith & Sons? What is the obvious differences now? What were the things that maybe created a bit of anxiety for you that you think, okay, now I'm with a team that's going to make my life a little bit more peaceful?
When you're on your own, people look at you differently. Like it's like almost they look down upon you unless you can, charm them into something, or showing something that you have value. A lot of times you can't do that, especially when you start doing sales on your own. You get in bigger jobs. You have to be good at, you have to actually be good at selling. But how do you apply something you've never really done at a certain level, and somebody says to you, hey, this is a good way of doing it. And that's what you kind of have to do. You have to kind of learn, take your own techniques and take somebody else's techniques and mold them together, right?
Yeah. So, okay, when did you first find out about Smithies? When did we bump into each other? And how did you bump into us? Like, did I see you at the pub or something and I tried to sell your franchise? Is that how it worked?
No, I actually saw your ad.
Okay.
And then I just clicked on some information and
ad on
Facebook.
Right.
On Facebook.
Yep.
Right. And then I was actually interested because but then again I thought it was a bit over the top, blown up. I'm like, this is just whatever. But I was interested.
Thought I was a bullshit artist.
Yeah, for sure, right?
I agree.
That's what you get when you see an ad. Normally you think somebody's selling you a bunch of crock of shit, pretty much, right? So, so you're just going with it. So.
Okay. But that was how long ago now?
That is 17 months. 17.
Wow. And then it was only probably, I don't know, was it 2 months ago then we reconnected?
Yeah.
Right. And so tell me about 17 months ago, Max is a bullshitter and Smith & Sons looks like a scam, to the decision that you made in your mind to reach out to us again. Because obviously you were still getting some emails from us and, you were still getting some information. You were seeing stuff on, TikTok or Insta or whatever. So what was that moment where you went from being, let's say, a bit of a standoff skeptic and you began to move a little bit closer, to the Smith & Sons fire? What was the trigger?
So after our first meeting, you had a lot of good points, but again, you're a salesperson.
Because you sat with me here in the conference room.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, right.
After work, you're all good with that, me coming late, so I was happy with that.
Yeah.
Right, but it's some things that you said stuck with me.
Really?
So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to watch.
What was that?
I don't remember.
Because I'm like, I'd really like to use that again.
It was just, how you came off genuine, but, that's what a lot of salespeople do. They come and bullshit you with stuff that you think you want to hear, but you don't actually need to hear. Right? No, but I felt there was some, truth to what you were saying, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm like, don't just say no. Don't tell him to say no. Just, watch what he does in the future. Mm-hmm. Watch the process, how he does with his other guys, right? So.
All right, mate. So tell me, had you ever heard of franchising in the construction sector before? Was it new to you, that concept? Or you knew about franchising, yeah? Because you know that McDonald's is a franchise, right?
Yeah, I read their story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting.
Okay, and so when that mysterious Facebook ad started, tripping you out on online, what did you think about franchising and construction? Did that get your attention more so than anything else to start with, or what?
Not the franchising part. And so obviously ads they play words, right? Spend more time with family. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, like I said, I got some information out of that, and that's when I originally set the meeting, right?
Okay, so I guess now that we've finished training, and obviously tonight we're going out for a few beers and a few more beers. Hell, taxi, drink responsibly. I'll say that on the record. But we're going out with a few of the guys, and of course you've got one of the benefits, I suppose, the fact that you've purchased an area within this city that we've got head office in. There's already a couple of guys in this town, so we're going to shoot out. What's your view on the camaraderie side of how do you feel about that? Because I know you haven't. Mind you, we had Mike in here last night. We had a few beers and stuff. Tell us about how that side of that kind of accessing that resource. How does that make you feel?
I guess it gives me more confidence. Because I can actually call one of the guys, hey, I have this problem.
Dude, do you lack confidence? Are you okay?
No. I have confidence. No, the truth is, right, when you start off on your own, when you're an independent contractor,
yep,
you just do things your own way. When you have no reference point, what your past, what the future will hold or what you're going to do, you have an idea. But if you have a team and people working, they can actually say, you can shoot ideas off each other and saying, hey, let's go with this, right?
Yeah, you'll feel that tonight,
Yeah.
Because we're just there talking business, really, So the camaraderie, and then of course we've got our award ceremony coming up in a week and 1 day. So that's where you're going to see more of that. We're going to try and pull everybody together for a bit of a celebration. So, yeah, okay. So, life as an independent contractor was a bit challenging. You were kind of making it up on the fly, because you know how to build things. This is the whole thing we talk about often, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, I'm really good at building stuff, but our business management skills and our financial analytical capabilities are almost, we were talking about numbers on the board in there, and it's like, it's not that you didn't know it, and it wasn't terribly difficult mathematics, but there's an eye-opener now. You're like, right, 38 grand a month, that's what I've got to sell. Yeah. This is what I've got to invoice for. Anything over that is awesome GP. And how do you feel about because a lot of the mentoring and coaching is mostly around sales and financial management. How does that improve your confidence?
Well, it was a bit of a wormhole at first, but it's you get the grasp of it, right? It's all magic. The thing is, people talk about having experience. They play themselves up like they're fucking awesome, like they're amazing, like these great people. But when it comes to actually true experience, you can't panic, man. You gotta stay calm. You can't panic, and that's what I find even in there. When you were showing me how to use Build Exact, it was a lot to take in. When I just took a breath for a second, and actually looked at what was going on. It was a lot more. I was able to comprehend the whole situation.
Yeah. So okay. So tell us about, because obviously, we use Build Exact as our job management software. So, were you using job management software of any description, or was it just Excel sheets and
Excel sheets,
and just notepads,
apps, and notepads, iPhone apps, whatever.
So it's all a bit fragmented.
Very pragmatic.
Yeah. Okay. So just if we've got folks in the audience, which we do a lot, is about, okay, what software should I use? What you saw yesterday, and I did like to reinforce this, is that it's really just a spreadsheet on steroids, but there's a lot of rabbit holes that you go down to get used to. Give us your insight, or what you observed and how you feel, because we talked about a lot of time in the seat, just getting used to it. Give us your initial overview and your observations as it relates to Build Exact as a newbie using that software.
My observation is that that is the way to go. That kind of software is just the way to go. You cannot look. The way I look at having 3 compartments, your personal files, Build Exact, and QuickBooks. You can make those work and merge. What are you doing with a pen and paper and apps? You're constantly just going crazy on it, right?
Yeah.
And then you're fucking scatterbrained on top of that too.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to remember where you put it. If you don't have a file to label it in, you're just putting it in random places pretty much.
So it's just about doing more of it. It's challenging to get your head around it initially, but the more you use it, the more familiar you get.
Well, exactly, right? So imagine doing, let's say, 2 hours of estimating. Doing that for an hour in there, it makes you realize you spend enough time on this program, you can knock that crap out in 15 minutes, right? And that's essentially what your day is about. You have to make your time more valuable, and again, compartmentalize your time, right?
Yeah. So what else? And I know we talked about, obviously the whole thing that we're trying to do is develop systems. The reason Smithies exists is because we're trying to do either jobs or parts of the business that general contractors don't want to do or can't do. So, systemizing around sales. Tell us, again, it's a confidence builder, But what were some eye openers in that? Like I asked you in there, I said, have you ever been paid to do a project proposal, right? Because you don't want to use the Q word.
No, I haven't, right? And it's a really, look, the bottom line is when you realize you can actually pay to do your job, makes you want to do a better job and actually more thorough. If you just throw a number out there, sure. Let it hit the wall and stick, right? Sure.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think how many hours last year or this year before you joined us, how many hours you would spend quoting? Like you think the average job takes between 20 and 50 hours to quote.
Yeah,
depending on what you're doing. How many hours would you have spent quoting this year?
Holy fuck, that's a good question.
I'd say 500.
Yeah, you're
10 hours a week for 50 weeks.
That's actually pretty close. Yeah,
it's a loaded question. Not really.
No, it's look. You're depending on how many jobs, right? Again, the leads, you're spending time on shit leads.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just you're spending hours on that for nothing.
Well, what we're trying to do is create efficiencies because systems will give you leverage.
Exactly.
You know, and we talked about recruiting good talent, building a team around you to give you a balance of time and money. What would you say to someone who was considering a change in the industry or making a change in their business? And a Smith & Sons ad come across their Facebook. The way you did it, you went and kicked tires with me 17 months ago, and now here you are sitting in the Business for Builders Smith & Sons podcast. What would you say to someone who's maybe at that initial crossroad where they've just been introduced to this ecosystem that is Smithies or Business for Builders? Like, what would your advice to them be?
Consider another option. Consider Smith & Sons an option because obviously you're getting tired. You're getting to that point where you want to change. Do you know what you want to change? Right? That's how I see. So, like I said, don't do it out of desperation. Do it deliberate. So.
Yeah. All right, man. Have you got anything else to add? Was there anything else that you want to enlighten our audience with?
I'm good.
Yeah, you're good. You're a good man, Jacob. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do, within the business. Like I've said during training, I can give you the Formula One car, but it's up to you, the driver, to not stick it in the weeds. So that's why we talk about joining forces because, we don't want to drop the ball as corporate and we'd love for you to not drop the ball as an operator because if we both get our poop in a group and get things going well, we can do awesome stuff. So we're really looking forward to seeing you develop a business and I'm sure we'll get you on the show in 12 months and we can talk about how much of a freaking rock star that you are. All right, folks, I hope you've enjoyed that one. It's a little bit short and sweet, but it's super enlightening. Thanks, Jacob, for dropping in, and go build a kick-ass business. We'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.